intentions and distractions for the call today. Hey, YGG, welcome. So we're doing just a quick check-in, intentions and distractions. Bear, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Intentions, just to learn more about the proposal that it's planning to be executed soon, and also to go through the grants program and all the work that needs to get done, just to keep working on that. And yeah, just to welcome like everyone here to the call. It's really nice to see a lot of people again. Distractions, not at the moment, so I'll just pass it to Marathon.
Hey, and Marathon Man, before you go, sorry, let me just, for those of you who are not used to being on these calls with music, if it's too loud and you're on a desktop, you can just right click on that tempo profile and adjust the user volume. And if you're on your mobile device, you basically just you select the meeting attendees and you can do the same thing. Okay, sorry, Marathon Mike, go ahead.
Intentions to catch up on the items on the agenda. Distractions, the weather here is a distraction. I'll pass it to Acid.
Thanks, Marathon. My intentions, just to sing with you guys, see what's new, distractions. I think I have no distractions at the moment, and I'll pass it to Tam.
Hey, so distractions, not so many, but intentions. So excited to hear about the idea of the bonding curve project. So that's really what I'm looking forward to the most today. And I will pass to Atta.
So Atta, I don't know if you can, you're still muted, but the idea is to just kind of share what your intention for the call is, like why you're here, and if you have any distractions. And then when you're done, to pass it over to somebody else, or you can pass it back to me and I can pass it for you. And I'm not seeing you unmuting, so we're going to go to the next person, and I'll pass it to Joseph. Atta, you can ping me if you want to speak later. Joseph, please go ahead.
So intentions, yeah, to get up to date and understand more about the grants program. Also, I've just started today the framework for the communications report with regards to our social media engagement and stuff like that. And distractions, no distractions. I will pass it on to Bear.
I already went, but I can pass it on to Isaac.
Cool, thanks. Intentions, well, just to catch up and talk about everything that I see on the agenda. Really nice to see all the people we have today here in the call. And distractions, none at the moment. I'll pass it over to Rex. Have you gone yet?
Hey, what's up? So I am traveling at the moment, but this is a pretty important call, so I'm joining in to listen in and to get a better idea of the next steps to take with regards to the whole bonding curve research group in terms of funding and so on, and to see this conversation through. I just joined, so I'm not sure who hasn't talked yet.
I'll pass it for you. YGG, would you like to go?
Hey, thanks, Gideon. Hi, everyone. Really happy to be here. My intentions are to support the bonding curve research team in presenting their proposal and having that discussion with everyone here. I'm really excited for that. And I'm excited for for the other agenda items too, to just get caught up. It's really nice to be here in the TC in one of these calls. It's been a while. And no distractions for me. I'm feeling great today. I'll pass over to Jenny Art.
I've already been, but I think Rex, has Rex been yet?
Yeah, yes. I'll keep it moving just because it's getting hard now. Juanca, do you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanna get involved and engage with what's happening in the TC, and I have no distractions. I can pass it to Griff.
I'm just stoked. Like, my intention is to hang out with all you guys. What a great call. It's so good to see so many old friends joining the party. So this is really fun. I'll probably be distracted a little bit here and there, but yeah, this is an epic, like, it's like an OGTC reunion almost. Feels like great vibes with the music and everything. Loving it. I'll throw it over. I'll gamble. Let's throw it to Tam.
Oh, I did go. I'll throw it to Gideon to keep it flowing.
Okay, this is getting harder and harder, but I know there are a few. So, Jeff, would you like to go?
Totally. Good to see everyone here. Intentions for the call to understand some of the upcoming changes to TEC proposals and voting and so on, and to discuss the bonding curve research group marathon that we've been has been back and forth on the TEC forum. One distraction, I've got a pizza in the oven, so I between here and the kitchen, but other than that, I'm here 100% for this call. And I will pass to Curious Rabbit.
Hey guys, I'm here for the bonding curve proposal as well, to support that and help it move forward. Distractions, probably many. Relationship issues, I got the flu, but surprisingly my energy levels have not dipped in regards to all of those. So I'm pretty present and looking forward to this.
Awesome. Let me pass it for you, Livia. That's you.
Thanks, Gideon. Oh man, I love the TC. It's so good to see this call full and everything happening here. I'm curious about the bonding curve research stuff that's happening, and my distraction, I'll be ordering food. And I'll pass back to you, Gideon.
Okay. And Joshua Y, would you like to say hi? Tell us what your intentions and distractions are?
Hi, yeah, so I guess my intentions here are I'm literally just dropping in to find out what TEC does, because ages ago I think you guys helped grassroots economics and I was kind of lurking there. So yeah, that was interesting. But I guess distractions, I don't really have any. So yeah, back to you, Gideon.
Okay, thanks, Joshua. Did we get everybody? I'm sorry if I missed somebody. Is anybody not gone? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that means me. My intentions, actually, one of my big intentions, sounds a little bit crazy, but the bonding curve project has been stressing me out a little bit, because we're trying to balance making some progress on trying to kind of like move the TEC towards sustainability. And we're doing all these proposals, and yet I know that there's been all this work that's been going on this project, and so it's trying to balance what's the fair thing to do, but also to not get too hung up with making progress. So I've been looking forward to this and just trying to make sure that we do what's right here, and so looking forward to having that conversation. I also, yeah, and distraction wise, no real distractions. So the other thing I just want to say, so quick updates. One of the first updates is, as a lot of you know, we're going through a lot of proposals right now. So there's 6 that are moving through. 3 have been up. One's actually not a proposal; it's just like a frame for it. but the conviction voting to DAO voting proposal is up, as is the new token engineering grants program proposal. So those are up, and then within the next probably 2 weeks, we'll have 3 more. One will be the coordination team's season 2 funding proposal. There will be another token engineering academy operations funding proposal. And then there's another one that is this proposal that's looking at economic integration between the academy and the token engineering commons. So lots of stuff is moving through. Are there any other just very quick updates that people would like to make that are relevant to, like, look at the people who are, look at the profiles of all the folks who are here. If you've got something that you think is relevant to everybody and you'd like to just give a quick update, now's a good chance.
I want to quickly update on the stakeholder study, just to share with everyone that we have started working already. We had our first meeting last week. We'll have our next meeting tomorrow, and we're starting to look into mapping the stakeholders that we're going to be interviewing. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach any of us in the team.
I just, if you don't mind if I make a comment about that, because I was thinking about it earlier today. As someone starting a business designing token systems for companies, there's one thing going through the theory, and I know I have people reaching out to me every week that want to like get involved in projects that have gone through the TEA. And then there's this whole other learning process that goes from trying to apply it. And if I could suggest anything, it'd be really focusing, or at least, you know, a strong stakeholder group to focus on is the people that have applied it, and what have they learned, and what are the gaps that they're seeing. Just because, you know, theory and practice, the difference sometimes is substantial.
You mean the people who have the people who, you said the people who have applied the knowledge, practitioners?
Yeah, exactly. Like not just the students of the TEA, but like people from block science, or people that, you know, from Nomics or Jarvis or whatever, like token design firms that are going through the process. Yeah, anyways, that's it.
Yeah, thank you. The focus is mostly to practitioners. Thanks for the suggestion.
Okay, any other quick updates? And then if not, we'll move on.
I can also give a quick update on Gravity. That is also a proposal that was funded by the TC, and is that we still have more than 50% of the funds that we received, and we've made a lot of progress. We have the website ready, and we will be launching a communication strategy to engage people to interact with the website and to launch the course hopefully in 2 or 3 weeks. So nothing, that we are moving, that we are focusing on this educational component, and that we will be delivering a free online course about conflict management, so that there's more awareness on this on any project. And yeah, we also will be launching a swag shop along with the page, and that's super cool that we did that with the General Magic team.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, everybody. Let's get into this so that we have time to cover all these topics today. The topics are first the bonding curve project. Second is an update on what's going on with the token engineering grant program. And the third, if we have time, is a little bit of brainstorming on a mural board about this idea of a TC membership program. So it's a lot to get through. Probably won't get to the last one, but if we do, that will be great. Okay, so what I'm thinking in terms of intentions for this first conversation would be doing a quick, just a very quick, I can just provide a quick update on like what's this, and maybe Nate, you can help out the state of funding proposals in the TEC. And then maybe we could just have just a very quick recap by the group, the bonding curve group, just like if you could just summarize for everybody, like what it is that you're planning on doing. And then I know that one of the things that was part of that was specifically focusing on augmented bonding curves. So it would be nice to be able to just kind of do a little bit of brainstorming, get some feedback if you want from the crew here on what kinds of things, what kinds of research and what kinds of issues we're looking at on that front. And then there's one question I think Jeff had about maybe setting up a space on the TEC Discord server, like an interest group for this team to collaborate on. So if we have time, we can talk about that. So just a quick update on the funding situation is, and you can get more details. I'm not going to go into all the details because they're pretty clearly written up in these proposals that are up on the funding. And actually, if somebody, because I'm talking, if somebody could just maybe, well, actually here, we'll do it. Here's a link to the one proposal that then leads to the other ones. So yeah, that didn't work. There. So very briefly, we are switching from conviction voting for funding decisions over to a combination of solutions. Basically, for most of the public goods funding that we want to do going forward, we're going to try to move most of that through this new grant program that is also up for vote. That will be going up probably on Thursday as a Dow vote. And this will be the new token engineering grants program. Isaac is driving that. It will be based on the Gitcoin Allo protocol. Pretty cool. It's going to allow us to do quadratic voting and matching, which will help us to stretch the common pool's funds and make them just go a lot further for public funding. So we're really excited about that. There will also be opportunities for projects, probably larger projects, to still continue to get funding directly from the DAO, but using DAO voting. And so we are going to be running a few tests of that. These proposals that are up right now that are linked to in the proposal here, or this proposal wrapper or roadmap, will be the first ones that we'll be testing that will involve some funding and use of DAO voting. Nate, is there anything else you'd like to add on that? Or Isaac?
Nope.
Okay, so before we dive into the actual project, let me just see if there are any kind of open questions as a result of it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let me turn it over to the bonding curve team. Who would like to take it and maybe just provide a quick overview of what you all are trying to do?
The proposal pulled up if it helps to share my screen here. And then, I don't know, Rabbit or myself or Sean, maybe we can all just weigh in on different parts and try to keep it as brief as we can. But let me pull this up quickly. I think everyone should be able to see that. Let me bump up my size a little bit. Then it's a big monitor. Okay. Cool. Okay, let me know if you can't see, but I'll just assume we're good to go. Cool. So this all came about from Rabbit's initial proposal on the TEC forum to create a bonding curve course. As some of you may know, he's been putting together some awesome content looking at different models of bonding curves and then modeling them in machinations and comparing them, like a Uniswap curve versus an augmented bonding curve. And he initially proposed a bonding curve course looking at a bunch of different bonding curve types, how they could be modeled, their different contexts, and then sort of like A to Z from sort of design to implementation to, you know, how can communities use these things to achieve their goals. So I was really appreciative of a lot of the work and work that he's put in, you know, just even on his Twitter content. And I feel like there's a lot of sort of diamonds hidden in this pile of data that we can pull out. And, you know, for the TEC, who has been running the augmented bonding curve for 1.5 years, 2 years, and I know I saw some of Griff's like back in the napkin math that TEC may have even like outperformed ETH over the bear market, which is amazing. And I feel like we should really be pushing that like data backed, you know, hey, here, you want a volatile, damp, stable token. Well, it's maybe not stable, but price volatile, damped token that provides, you know, sort of this value stability, especially in bear markets. You know, having the sort of the dashboards, the data to show it, and also to discuss sort of all of the different types of bonding curves, how they could be used, would be really sort of backing up a lot of the TEC's claims with sort of that empirical data, looking at the ABC as it's been running thus far. That said, I think there's also huge opportunity for bonding curves in multiple different contexts. So basically, we proposed a 3-month research marathon. It's Curious Rabbit would be doing the social media posts and videos, machinations models. Sean Anderson would be doing a lot of the data analysis, tying some of the sort of Dune analytics stuff possibly into Python, so that the TEC dashboard could not only be you know, retrospective data from the past, but also potentially tying that into modeling for future, like if we're going to make a change, how would that impact it? I mean, ultimately, this is a research marathon, so we're trying not to have hard and set deliverables for everything that's coming out. Obviously, there will be educational deliverables, data analysis, model dashboard updates, suggestions, and so on. We'll also be helping on the Dune analytics side, taking sort of what we're learning from the research and then potentially upgrading TEC dashboards to give the community a more sort of real-time and informative look at the economy and how it's going. So sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Rabbit, Sean, anything to jump in and add, or otherwise I can jump into deliverables, outcomes, timeline, but I don't want to hog the mic either. So if anyone wants to jump in and add stuff, feel free.
I think you're doing great, Jeff. I think I'll pretty much hand it back to you, but I do just want to say, high level, this is a research initiative with a lot of really sort of superstar talent. I mean, I am so excited to get to work with Jeff on this, and Curious Rabbit has been doing amazing work on building out machinations, simulations of in bonding curves, and Rex has built out the Dune analytics dashboards for the TEC bonding curve, and we're going to bring all this together. And it's a research group, but we're going to keep it grounded with very clear outputs, which is going to be 6 digestible media outputs with educational resources. So we're making 6 educational resources, all on different topics, but all about bonding curves. So we're going to look at historical data through Dune analytics and bringing that into Python. We're going to look at machinations simulations. We're going to look at Python parameterized simulations and CAD. And we're going to lay out 6 of these topics. We're going to do one that's on like the different, looking at AMMs and bonding curves and all those different equations. So what is like the Bancor equation versus the Uniswap constant product equation and all this. And so we've got these 6 content deliverables that we're going to bring and put out. And I think this is going to be a big attractor for the TEC. This is going to attract a lot of new eyes, new talent. And it's also going to lay a foundation of a common understanding and a common language around bonding curves, so we can all be on the same page and understand the intuition around why these are needed and the use cases and the real world applications that we can achieve with bonding curves. So high level research, but then we're going to keep it really grounded with these digestible
She just
Gordon's gone. Yeah. But Robin, you were going to say something too.
Yeah. So let's say one thing I've learned, because guys, the way this all started was 5 months ago. I started learning out loud as I went through the TEA and quit my job and stuff. And it started to attract more and more people who thought I was an expert. I'm always transparent about not being an expert, but just the act of educating people and communicating via social media has brought on substantial leads and caused me to create a business now and build teams servicing clients. And I feel like there's a huge need for understanding how bonding curves could be relevant to your Web3 project in the space, their use case and application to whatever it is that you're trying to build within Web3, and creating a market for whatever illiquid asset or whatever. Just creating a market is probably just one use case of a bonding curve, right? There's so many that we can explore. And that leads me to believe that if we can pull off appearing like experts in this new design space, informing others, that will attract more and more people to the experts in our community. And I don't know what the sustainable flywheel is for the TEC yet, but I at least can see it driving value to members of the TEC who provide services.
Okay.
For sure.
Excellent. Thank you. Is any other things that you guys want to cover before we get into a conversation?
Yeah, so basically, I think we're about ready to post the proposal up on the forum. It's basically lived in a doc as we've gone back and forth, and we wanted to have this discussion with the TEC stakeholders before posting on the forum. So yeah, I mean, there's more details about our proposed budget, timeline, rough timeline, along with sort of breaking down a bunch of the tasks that we discussed, what our success looks like, how we'll share progress. We definitely plan on keeping the TEC, heavily involved, having like every 3 weeks an update on the forum. We can do Q&A. Also planning on getting sort of an idea of research questions that may be relevant from people who have thought long and hard about this. Gideon, Griff, Tam, Livy. If there's any other questions around how the ABC has operated, where could it be improved, anything like that, any of these research questions, we definitely plan on having more of an input process to make sure that we're asking the right questions and then exploring in the right direction. So yeah, I think in the interest of time, we can probably call it at that. But if there's any questions, also happy to answer if there's any questions or suggestions or feedback from the group here.
Okay, so let's open it up. Does anybody have any questions for the group? I would like to just spend a little bit of time just talking about the funding, like what's the best way to get you guys set up for success with funding, given the new terrain. But any questions from folks on the call?
Do you plan on keeping this open to newcomers who want to participate within this research group and allow them to participate? Okay.
Sure.
My only other concerns was, outside of being kind of independent, similar to the stakeholder group, this kind of falls in line with, our efforts with the curation service and this Scaling Point initiative, where we have, people, navigating towards these groups. But I was just hoping to see if there was any way we could better integrate the goals of the Bonding Curve Research Group into the Shelling Point Initiative and the goals that we have there to kind of maximize this approach that we have and strategy to onboard membership and all those good things. So I was just hoping to see if you guys would be willing to integrate more closely into that effort.
Be open to it. I don't know a ton of information about the did you say Shelling Point? But yeah, happy to discuss further. And if there's synergies in closer collaboration, definitely happy to consider. And yeah, I mean, we can also have additional folks. The what's laid out here is basically the sort of initial steps. We planned that there would be evolution in research questions, evolution in researchers. So definitely open to further collaborations and happy to chat more about that, Nate.
My last question is there an end date or like a objective to end the research group, or is this going to remain open for as long as need be?
So the initial plan was a 3-month research marathon. So kind of contrasted to like the sprint, like weekly or biweekly sprints, we were planning a 3-month marathon. That was what the initial funding is requesting for. We would love to continue the research. I have a feeling that once we start digging into the research questions, there will be far more than 3 months of work. And hopefully we can find continued funding. We were thinking of potentially deploying an inverter. We've been talking with ATA and the inverter network, and also potentially some funding through other organizations to supplement additional funding for ongoing research. But what's scoped here is basically a 3-month marathon with initial funding from the TEC, and then we're hoping to produce valuable outputs that we can shop around and get further funding, whether from the TEC in a subsequent round or other groups. We've got a list of grant applications, and we were thinking of feeding all of those potentially into an inverter to simplify our operations and overhead in terms of a persistent, continuous research group.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty stubborn about making this keep going if we're successful in the first 3 months, because it's not really about the first 3 months. It's about providing tools to projects to create new market structures that have less intermediaries and create the next operational system of the world. It's not a 3-month job, This is like a years and years, and we're in this new design space. So I hope that this continues and becomes sustainable by driving business towards us, actually.
Okay, any other quick questions from the crew here?
Can you pass that Google Doc link in the chat? And I'm curious. I didn't see it specifically, but maybe I wasn't watching the live screen because I'm just loving all your guys' faces and icons. But are there milestones as part of this? Like some money at the beginning, some money in the middle, some money at the end, or is it all a one shot?
Actually, we didn't discuss breaking up the budget. That was, I think it was in Rabbit's proposal, was basically 5K up front, and then I think it was an amount per month. We hadn't discussed that in this proposal yet, but happy to break it up how it makes sense. I imagine there could be some upfront and then some on delivery. And the milestones are basically, or the planned deliverables are basically the things we've listed out here. So a lot of it will probably be stacked towards the end of the research initiative. So, we'll be doing a bunch of the research up front, creating the content, and then releasing it probably towards the second half.
Yeah, in one of our first meetings, we had decided to go from a milestone to more of a timeline. But, happy to adapt as is appropriate.
And I guess the other thing is the social media content posts. That's very exciting. I really like that addition. So I imagine those could be part of the milestone thing where it's like, oh yeah, we've finished the machinations, and then there's some boost. And even if the money's all, or a large portion of the money is sent, but there's these clear milestones, even if they're not attached to money, is very nice. So then everyone knows, yeah, we're doing it,
Yeah, here the content release is focused in the last 6 weeks. Look, I personally would say 6 is the minimum because, there's old work and there's new work, and, if we won't hold it to 6 if we want to release more.
I think it's more important that expectations are appropriately managed, not that, oh, we got to try to rush something. No. Just clear expectations so that everyone knows if it's going well, a month or two down the line or not, you know. So it's not important that what it is, but it's nice to have some clear, like, oh yeah, no one got distracted and start working on other things or whatever, you know.
So if it's okay, let me just jump in because we're gonna run out of time relatively soon. I just want to talk about, let's get into the nitty gritty of like funding, how this might work. So as I see it, I'll just throw out two options and then let's just brainstorm a little bit about, you know, it's probably not worth having everybody involved, but I did want to kind of give this some public light just because this is kind of a weird transition that we're in right now. Like, I really don't know what's the best thing to do, what's the fairest thing and the best thing for the mission, right? But it seems like the two obvious options would be one, you just package this whole thing up and you submit it through DAO voting, just like these other proposals are going to. It's just kind of the new standard way, assuming that this vote to move away from conviction voting to DAO voting for funding proposals passes, then you just basically say, yeah, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to just pitch this as a DAO vote. The other option would be to say, no, you know, it might be it's probably going to be a higher threshold than the conviction voting. We're still not sure about that, what that's actually going to look like. That's what these tests are for. But the other option would be to say, hey, we want to just go all in on this new Gitcoin grants protocol that the TEC is pulling together, this new grants program. And, you know, there are probably not going to be that many projects that are really compelling in this first round. I mean, hopefully I'll be really wonderfully surprised, but like, we are moving very quickly to push this out. So I'm guessing there would be a pretty good shot that you guys could get some good funding, a good portion of the quadratic funding in that. But it wouldn't be, my guess is it probably would not be the full amount. So you'd have to, if you went that route, you'd probably have to think about this in buckets and like stretching it out over time and coming back, you know, because we'll be doing multiple rounds of grants, probably once a quarter. So that would be like a strategy that kind of pushes this out. I mean, you'd get like an initial batch and then like the next batches would be in subsequent rounds. So those are two ideas.
So does that mean, Gideon, that conviction voting is not an option? It's just DAO voting or this other new Allo protocol?
I mean, assuming that this passes in, you know, over the next, it's now in the comment period up on the forum, and then from there it will go. So that'll be by the end of this week. Assuming there's no blockers, then it would go to DAO voting. So, yes, assuming that this passes, then that would be conviction voting route would be closed.
But if we, let's say, put up the proposal today in Gardens, would that then be before it turns to DAO voting, even if DAO voting goes up to Gardens?
Yeah,
Let me go, you know, let me go upstairs. Sam is upstairs right now. So I'm just going to ask him, and I'll check that out. So answer in 10 minutes.
Grip, are you? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure if we did that, it would be fairly difficult to reach the conviction threshold before the cut, if that makes sense. So we'd put up the vote. We might get some conviction, but it wouldn't be enough to release the funds, and then the action to kind of close the conviction voting pool would happen before the
only parameter.
Sorry,
the only parameter we're changing is the spending limit. So I think if it's up there already, it has no bearing on the conviction rate or whether it stays up there or not. It just will not allow any more new proposals to enter this.
If I may, very quickly, I think first it cannot go today on conviction voting because this is a new proposal. We have to, you have to post this in the forum, and we have to wait a few days for it to be able to go through any type of on-chain voting. I think that's important to note. And then as part of the process, I think, or as part of how to get this funded, I think that it is important that this gets the whole funding through TAO voting or conviction voting. But as we are moving to TAO voting, as soon as it passes, use TAO voting because of two main things. First, this whole proposal discussion was even before anyone really knowing the timing or the decision of switching off conviction voting. And so I think it's not necessarily fair. And technically, we haven't, until it is on chain, we haven't made the decision, you know? And second thing, this is really important for the TEC. It's like if we cannot understand the bonding curve, we like it's going to be hard. So I see this as a really critical proposal, almost like the operational proposals that we're going to put up. And so I would hope that we can make it so that at least this first period of the program that's really focused on the TC can receive the full funding without can secure the whole funding amount they need, because we don't even know if that's going to be possible with quadratic funding, especially because this first round is only 25K. But then, yeah, for other proposals that start after we made the change, then we probably can set up expectations. But this one started with the expectations of being able to go through on-chain voting and get all the funding needed.
NT, you brought up a great point there, and it's true that the updated proposal is different enough that it warrants a new forum post and, let's say, a certain time on the forum. Because there was an initial proposal there. So I'm just wondering if that's consensus. Like, oh, this is different enough that we should put it up on the forum for everybody to see for a while before Gardens.
Well, on our governance process, if there is, so you put the first proposal in the forum and then you received advice and then you incorporate that advice and you could technically update the same proposal. But if you're saying, if the people who are putting the proposal think that the changes are so significant that it would require a new post and a new advice process, then I would say this is up to you. And if you feel like the advice integrated is coherent enough with what had been proposed at first, and that there is enough conversation that you don't need to make a new proposal and go through advice process again, I think that's also fine. And on the case of what NT is bringing up, so the coordination team of the TEC is putting up a proposal for changing the instance of funding, of voting funding from conviction voting to TAO voting. And then this has its own advice process, which all what's happening in this call has been an advice process for that proposal. So if the coordination team decides that the advice received is we should hold this proposal from going up right now to benefit the bonding curve proposal, they could do that. If their incorporated feedback is still, we should push and still submit this proposal, they should also do that. So did that make sense, or was that confusing?
No, that's a great analysis, Livy. Thank you. Nate, were you going to say something?
Nope, I just wanted to say I agree with everything Livy said there. I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, that was super clear. Thanks, Livy.
I have one question, which is, what is the voting process to push forward the transition? Like, how are we voting on that transition from conviction voting to DAO voting? And this is probably documented, but my apologies.
That has to be done through TAO voting because it will be changing an application, basically, of the DAO.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it follows the parameters of DAO voting.
Mm-hmm.
Migrants, would you mind putting yourself on mute? Okay, so I think that we could probably, thank you, we could spend a lot of time going around on this. My interpretation of this is as follows. We could, if we did what Libby is suggesting and basically modified the existing proposal that Nate put up around downvoting, we would still have to figure out how to do that so that, basically what that would be doing is we'd be saying, hey, this is the last proposal that will go through conviction voting, right? Why? Because it was already in process, and there's some rationale. There's definitely some rationale for that. The challenge then becomes like, how do we then ever shut off conviction voting? Let's say that project then just stays in conviction voting for a long time. Then we're there, and we're kind of like stuck in this in between place. So I guess the question would then be, if we were to do that, what constraints would we put on to, one, prevent a whole bunch of other proposals from coming through? That would be the first thing. I think we can stop that. But two is, what if this proposal just sat in conviction voting for a couple months? What problems does that cause?
I would say that yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I think it's not worth discussing this, because if we do vote to change the spending limit to 0, then whatever is in conviction voting will just never be able to pass. So that's it doesn't matter if there's votes or not.
What we were talking about before is that there was a suggestion to not make that proposal right now and benefit of the bonding curve proposal. And I was saying how this should be a discussion that the coordination team goes over, because that's the proposal that they're putting up. So they should understand if that's an advice process they want to integrate or not. And I think what you just mentioned now, Gideon, should be discussed within the group that put that proposal. And then you could come up with a proposal if you decide to incorporate that feedback and not implement it right now. Then you propose the parameters in which that would be applied.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment. How about this? Because I think it's important that we wrap this up right now. What I would love to get is just a signal from the crew here. If you believe that it's just given the circumstances of this unusual situation, that it's important for us to figure out some way to do some kind of compromise, maybe change the policy, the conviction voting policy that is up there, to allow this proposal to be the last one to go through conviction voting, even if that means some complications. Like we have to figure out exactly how to do it. But if you believe that that is the case, and we should try to address that, just signal some type of emoji right now on screen.
I'm wondering if there's a big difference between, if there is support for the proposal, does it matter if it passes through conviction voting or TAO voting? Like that's my thought is, if there is support, it will pass in through either one, and if there's not support, then it won't. So to me, it doesn't really matter the way that votes are accumulated, whether it's TAO voting or whether it's conviction voting. What I was more interested in this call, I mean, that's an important factor, of course, because it impacts how we put up the proposal, et cetera. But my main question or feeling of feedback that I was looking for from this group was, is there support for this work? And in that case, it doesn't really make a difference to me whether it's conviction voting or TAO voting, or even broken up into smaller grant proposals. I mean, there's a bit more overhead doing it that way. Fitting it into like sub 5K grants, there would be a lot more sort of like coordination and overhead and sort of like scoping out those things. But ultimately, what I'm interested in is getting the work done. And if there's support for it, then how it comes is less important.
from my understanding, is just a time challenge. That if both proposals go up in the same time, it could happen that the Tau voting proposal passes before the bonding curve proposal, and then you would have to submit it again. It would just be stuck there without receiving the funds. But then if the Tau voting proposal it goes first, and then the bonding curve proposal waits to go through Tau voting, then it's like the support would be like, oh, for sure, this is gonna pass, and then the funds will come. But you could still try to submit to conviction voting right now, and maybe it would pass before the other one passes.
I honestly think that having the Tau voting for this proposal would be even more beneficial than it would through CV, just because we are trying to figure out the ideal, optimal parameters for Tau voting for funding requests. So if this proposal is having a hard time getting support, then I can't imagine the transfer from the CV to Tau is going to fare any better. So this is one of those things that we're just going to have to evaluate. But I think having more proposals in the Tau will help us understand better what the challenges are when it comes to getting support for these types of proposals in the future.
So I guess this goes.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if we want to use this as a test case to explore the parameterization of the Tau voting, because I understand this is probably a larger proposal than most that would go through, for example, the grants program. But if we want to experiment with this proposal to figure out how to properly parameterize the Tau voting, there's no urgency on my side. I know, there's a lot of work to be done. We'd love to get started doing it. But if it makes sense to do the transition and then use this proposal as a way to test the parameterization of Tau voting for larger proposals, that's also, I think, open to discussion. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's definitely the more pragmatic. That removes a lot of dependencies. The path of trying to push this through conviction voting. I mean, we can do it, but it's gonna make things a lot more complex, I think. So if the bonding proposal team is open to what Jeff is just suggesting right there, we can definitely work with you. I mean, I think the backup would be, try it on Tau voting, and then if that doesn't pass, then you still have the Gitcoin, the new grants program that we've got, and we could. I mean, you wouldn't get it all in one batch, but you could keep coming back, I guess. So, how does the team feel about that? Moving forward.
So I'm definitely all for reducing complexity and making things simpler. So as long as, let's say, this doesn't push it 3, 4, 5 months into the future, I would say it's worth it to reduce complexity for you guys. One thing that Enti just noted is the DAO voting process is going to take more time to settle than we think. I don't know the intricacies of the DAO voting process at all, so it's hard for me to ascertain that.
Yeah, it feels like there's a bit of a gamble here. Like, we could just throw this up on conviction voting now and pray that we get full conviction, but maybe we don't, right? I know the stakeholder study proposal went through pretty fast, and then there's complexities here. Like, is this a different proposal than what's already on the forum? Yeah, I agree with what Rabbit's saying. I don't know the complexities of transitioning to DAO voting. I hope it doesn't take months. I like the idea of this being a pilot for DAO voting. If this is a pilot for us to experiment with DAO voting and tweak those parameters, that sounds cool too. I just I don't know the risk of it becoming more complex than we thought. I hope it doesn't take months.
I think because for example, the grants program is already going to be used as a pilot for Tau voting. Maybe if we think I sense that there's somewhat support for the bonding curve proposal, and I think if we were to ask the broader community with the blog, with the forum post or whatever, and coordinate it to pass, just as the stakeholder or the academy passed it just a few months ago very quickly, I think we can get this done and out of the way, and then keep working on the tau voting, because I think I personally think it's going to take no less than 3 weeks or a month, just because parameter changes, voting, well, having it on the forum for advice process, getting to learn how to use how to set up tau votes and all of that. That's probably going to be 3 to a month, and I don't see why this proposal should be delayed so much just because of that. When I think a month is enough for it to pass, given the discussion here is about the voting, not if anyone disagrees with the proposal. So it seems like there's somewhat of consensus of supporting this proposal.
So my last comment is going to reiterate what Livia said, and that I can look at this entire conversation as advice process, and at the end of the day, this decision is up to you guys of how you want to approach it. You see the outline of the challenges that might be coming. So if you want to put that up in CV, I think you should do it immediately. Make a post in the forum, say we've gone through the advice process, and just go through it. If it doesn't pass, then you're back to where we are right now, to tau voting. So I mean, I think this is all part of the advice process, and at the end of the day, this is your decision to make, and the coordination team can adjust accordingly.
Cool,
So-
thanks, Nate. And just to be clear for everybody, we're just going to update the existing forum post because this does take into account all the feedback and falls into Livy's kind of ladder scenario.
Livy made a comment in the chat that seems to kind of check all the boxes from my perspective. It's like, if we're going to break this into, we could break this into milestones and talk about multiple funding. And we could put the first one through right now in conviction voting. It would be a smaller amount, so it'd be easier to go through. And then we can come back later to DAO voting for future milestones. That might be like the compromise that checks all the boxes.
Yeah, okay. We have 1 minute. How about this? What would be great is if, Rabbit, you and the rest of the crew can just summarize what you would like to do, whether you want to do this modularized approach, whether you just want to go for it with DAO voting, or whether you want to try to, push the whole thing through conviction voting. Those seem like those are various options there. And what Nate will then have to do is that he'll work with us to figure out, like, just mitigating. If you do put it into conviction voting, we'll have to figure out, like, how we treat things, like making sure that it doesn't get stuck in conviction voting. Like, what will happen if the tau vote then gets passed and this project is still partway through? I think the answer is it'll just get killed, but we just need to clarify that. So I feel a bit bad that we took the whole time today to or like a big chunk of it to figure this out, but I think it was worth it because we really wanted to do right by this team. This sounds like a really cool project, and we're in kind of an unusual circumstances right now. So, all right. We did not get to the, so next steps, basically, Rabbit, we're going to wait to hear back from you and the team about what you would like to do as your next steps. And then just let us know ASAP on that, because Nate and I will have to just figure out if there's anything we need to do with the DAO voting. I don't think so, but if you can just let us know, that'd be great. And then we'll wrap it up basically in the forum post with what the next steps are. Maybe we'll just do some comments in the forum post as next step. All right. Well, everybody, thank you. Thanks for hanging in there on this, and we'll be doing the grant program update next week. We'll probably be talking on the Thursday call as well, and then we'll definitely tackle the TEC membership program next week too. So be here next week if you want details on that, and that will be more of a conversation. All right, everybody, thank you. Thanks so much for hanging in there. It's great to see all of these the OG. It's nice. It's really nice. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Gideon. Thank you, Gideon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Al. Bye. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
See how